Hey everyone, welcome to the Beyond the Why podcast, the podcast where we cover athletes who took their careers beyond the why here at BYU and to the professional levels. I'm your host, Garrison Williams. Look, this is a fantastic time to start a podcast. We're a couple weeks removed from Super Bowl Sunday, and we're going to have content for you all off season, so stay tuned. Here for our first episode, we're going to be covering the only former BYU Cougar to actually make it to the Super Bowl this season. Bet you can't guess who I'm thinking of. Defensive tackle Khyiris Tonga for the New England Patriots. Now, I know what you're thinking. Patriots didn't exactly get the win that I think, BYU fans who are aware of Khyiris on the team would have liked to have seen, but overall, fantastic season for the New England Patriots defense. And Khyiris Tonga played a huge role in that. New England had the sixth best rushing defense in the NFL this season, and that showed all throughout the playoffs and into the Super Bowl. Like I said, didn't exactly get the win that BYU fans necessarily were hoping for, but Khyiris had a great season, and we're going to break it down here. So just a little bit of background on Khyiris. He got a start in BYU in the 2017 season. He played all 4 years, 2017 through 2020. Obviously contributed to that prolific 11-1 team that we had there that ended up being a little bit more disappointing than we wanted it to be, but darn you, Coastal Carolina. But Khyiris had a great collegiate career at BYU. His junior year, he racked up 45 in total tackles. And I think a lot of people thought he was going straight to the NFL after junior year, but he declared for his senior season, racked up a good 38 tackles in 2020, and was taken in the 7th round by the Chicago Bears in the 2021 NFL Draft. Another popular BYU player taken in the 2021 NFL Draft, but we can get to him later. He was with Chicago for the 2021 season, briefly joined the Atlanta Falcons practice squad in 2022 for about a month, and then signed with the Minnesota Vikings for the 2022 to 2023 seasons. Arizona picked him up in 2024, and then our New England Patriots here picked him up for 2025. He was on a 1-year deal, and we're hoping that he sticks around because I think the lights are bright for New England, and stock is up for them. So I'm hoping to see Khyiris back in the Super Bowl next year. It'd be fantastic. Always love to see a BYU guy in there. So here's how I kind of want to do this, and this is the format that I'm hoping to use for future episodes, is a grading system that I've kind of prepared to break down individual players' seasons, regardless of position. I hope to be able to use this same kind of scale. So it's my Garrison grading system here. Since it's episode 1, I'll break that down for you guys. We'll start with the production. So this is number 1, production. And this is their production relative to their role on the team. So this is more of a statistical look at their season. How did they compare to other players in their role on the team? Number 2 is role execution. How well did they do at their job? This is more of the, were they liked in the locker room? Were they showing up every single week to do their job? Did they hold a solid position in their respective roles? So that grade's going to look different for guys like Khyiris, who's more, he's a rotational defensive lineman, or Zach Wilson, who's a backup quarterback, versus, Puka Nacua, who's that wide receiver out there that we all love. So that grade can look pretty subjective based off of the individual role. And then we have consistency. Did coaches know what they were getting every single week with this player? And then their team impact. How much do they matter to the team? Which plays into number 5, the final thing, which is their future outlook. So we'll dive right into it. So number 1, production. This is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10. So starting with production, I gave Khyiris a 7.8. Now, in my mind, from this scale of 1 to 10, since this is our first episode, if a player's going to earn a 9.0 or above, they're going to have to really knock my socks off. They're going to have to do something that really sets them apart from the rest of the players. They're doing something that's different. If they're between 7 and 8, that's a pretty solid score. 6 and below, we're going to have more of a conversation about that, maybe ways they can improve, a little breakdown on that. But for Tonga here in his statistical production, I gave him a 7.8. In the regular season, he led the team in bats at the line of scrimmage, which I bet you didn't know. He had 2, which was, like I said, the best on the team for the New England Patriots. He had two quarterback knockdowns, 1 quarterback hurry, and no sacks in the regular season, combining for 3 overall quarterback pressures. And that was just the pass rush. He consistently sits right behind the 2 guys. If you're super familiar with New England Patriots, if you're a New England Patriots fan, Khyiris Tonga consistently sits behind Christian Barmore and Milton Williams on the defensive line. Those 2 guys are the stars of that New England defensive line. And they made a real statement this season, for sure. I don't think any of us, as I've already said, I don't think any of us expected New England to do as well as they did. But their pass rush was insane. Their rush defense was crazy. And Christian Barmore and Milton Williams really led the team on that. But if you're looking at Khyiris, and for this first grading category being production, I gave him a 7.8 because statistically he's not at star level yet. That I think would give me, not star level as far as like, oh, you're going to the Pro Bowl, you're doing things that's amazing above and beyond, right? Because that would take him more into that 9.0 or above category for me. But I think what would get him in the 8s is if he competed a bit more statistically with Barmore and Williams. I think he's capable of that. We actually did see him. He had an amazing sack against Houston in the playoffs this season, and that was actually his first total credited sack. And if he were to contribute a little bit more statistically, I think, and compete with Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, that would take him into the 8s for me. And you got to look at snaps played and everything like that too. He is right behind. If Christian Barmore and Milton Williams are 1 and 2, Khyiris Tonga is always number 3. So I love that. And that leads me into role execution. So 8.9 is what I gave him for role execution. One thing about Khyiris, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's not often heard of like, whoa, the offensive lineman just blew Khyiris away. He contributed to a dominant run defense and was really solid and didn't make a lot of mistakes. In the Super Bowl, they forced teams like Seattle to go outside. I mean, Kenneth Walker had several catches out of the backfield, which is not something that he usually does. Not saying he didn't get away with running all over him, because, I mean, there was an obvious reason he was a Super Bowl MVP, but he put up a good fight. He contributed to a defense, I should say, that put up a great fight. So he's right there at 8.9, which, as I've already explained, that in my mind is the best score I would give somebody who didn't blow my socks off. I think if you're talking about a rotational defensive lineman who's looked at as I hate to say backup because that has kind of a negative connotation. I mean, we always think of quarterbacks and stuff like that who, if you're a backup quarterback, that looks a lot different. I mean, he was rotational. That's the way to explain it. He was rotational. So for a rotational defensive lineman, 8.9. I don't think you're going to get much better without blowing my socks off if you're Khyiris Tonga. I think he was fantastic. I think any team would be lucky to have him in that specific role. And I think at some point, depending on what happens with his career, we could see him be even more, or have even more of that star quality, be more competitive with Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, even statistically, like I was talking about for his production score. So he's getting an 8.9 for his role execution. I think he's fantastic. I think any team would be lucky to have him in that rotational defensive lineman role that he's in right now. So consistency for category number 3 here. I gave him an 8.1. Like I said, he does not make a lot of mistakes. He had 24 combined tackles on the season for the regular season. He had 1 missed tackle, and that's pretty great. I realize interior defensive linemen don't often have opportunities to miss tackles. Like, it's not the exact same for like an outside linebacker or especially a defensive back. But 1 missed tackle amongst other defensive linemen is pretty good. If you look at the percentage wise, that's 4%. So fantastic. He played 40% of the defensive snaps for New England. One thing you may not know about Khyiris actually is he plays on special teams and he gets some offensive snaps as well. So he'll come on for that field goal unit, and then he takes snaps at fullback. I don't know if any of you guys know that, but in week 10, actually, he had a super crucial block when lined up at fullback to set up Travion Henderson for a game-sealing 69-yard touchdown. It was fantastic, and it was awesome to see Khyiris out there playing some offense too, because that guy's a beast. I mean, his frame is low and solid, and I can promise you, if I were some outside linebacker, I would not want to be seeing him at fullback trying to block me. That'd be terrifying. I will say one thing that kind of brought this statistic down a little bit for me. He didn't record a single stat in 4 games. Now that's true in one sense, and then we've also got to kind of put an asterisk on one of those games because he did have one of his bats at the line of scrimmage versus Carolina. But 4 games, week 2 at Miami, week 3 versus Pittsburgh, week 4 versus Carolina, he did have a bat at the line of scrimmage that game, and then week 10 at Tampa Bay. Again, he recorded offensive snaps, but no statistics, so no tackles, nothing like that, no sacks or pressures. I would like to see him stay healthy. He missed the last couple games of the regular season just with an injury. He was in a boot, and players are going to get banged up, especially going late into the season. I mean, this is you're playing 17 games, it's an 18-week season. It's a long season for these guys. And they're even talking right now about adding an 18th game, taking it to 19 weeks. We can get into that at a different time. So, long story short, it's understandable, I guess, for Khyiris to, be a little bit banged up. You see that with players, especially players who really put their body on the line, like Khyiris does, specifically Khyiris at this defensive tackle position. But I'd like to see him stay healthy. I think I would take this a little bit above. Again, 8.1 is still in that category for me of like solid performance this season. He's a very consistent player overall. He's not necessarily knocking my socks off. He's not blowing my mind as far as consistency goes, but he is what you'd want. He's what you'd expect. And, if you take the second half of this season with Khyiris Tonga, I mean, this would be an 8.8-ish player for me in my mind, because he recorded statistics defensively in every single other game past that he actually played in, not the ones that he sat out for injury. But so consistency, I'm giving him an 8.1. Taking a look at the season as a whole, I think that's the way to look at it there. Okay, category number 4, team impact. We don't hear a ton about players like Khyiris and their team impact, I'm giving him a 7.2 on team impact. Look, he's a rotational player. He plays more at a depth. Like I said, I hate to use that backup term, but more at a depth than he is like more starting, even though he has several starts this season. I will say what helped Khyiris a lot here for this team impact is his role on offense is unique. It's valuable. If you had fullbacks built like that, I mean, you would use them all the time. He's a unique player. It's awesome to fit him into certain packages like that. And yeah, I'm excited to see in the future how they continue to use him. So it'll be interesting to see. He's a special teams guy, which is awesome. 18% of special team snaps. That's fantastic. He gets on the field goal unit. You need guys like that who are willing to just be team players. I think that adds a lot for team impact. The reason why this score is a little bit lower than I think most people would expect, I wouldn't say that the team would be hopeless or lost without him. I don't think Khyiris is like I need this player. And so as far as like how much do they matter? Oh, heck, what an asset this player is to the team. Fantastic. Fun to watch. He gets on the field. He plays his role. He's consistent. He's impactful, but he's not we need to spend everything that we have on this guy to keep this guy. And I hope that we see more of him. I hope that we see him in a role where he has more of an opportunity to make an impact. I hope next season we're looking at this like, yeah, this is an 8.5 player because he has that potential. And BYU breeds these guys like for having real impact on the team. He's been in the league for a few years now, and he's not a rookie. He knows what he's doing, and he's got some experience, especially going and playing in the Super Bowl, making it through the playoffs. I mean, he can have a real impact on a team. I'm hoping New England keeps him around, but whichever team he ends up on next season, he has potential to make a really big impact. So, 7.2 for this season. Getting into future outlook, I'm giving him 8.5. I think his future is bright. I think this season was a great mark on his resume, a great stepping stone for him. Whether New England keeps him or not, I personally think they will. I mean, they signed him to a 1-year, $2.7 million contract. I think that continues. I think they'd love to re-sign him, just depending on cap space and everything like that for the Patriots. But I think this was one of his best seasons, if not the best season of his career so far. So I would love to see New England sign him again. But like I said, whichever team ends up with him is lucky to have him. Really best case scenario for Khyiris here, and because I'm a Khyiris Tonga fan, I would say the best case scenario for him is for a team to utilize him in that starting, that star role. I think he's capable of that. If you look at stats for Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, you know, even though he's consistently behind those guys, they're not doing things that are like that out of the picture for Khyiris. I think he's right there with those guys. Another player that often gets brought up statistically with Khyiris Tonga is Corey Durden, who's listed as a nose tackle. He often exceeds, if not matches, Corey Durden in that statistical conversation. As far as future outlook goes, and as far as his potential impact on another team, I think best case scenario for him is to get into a role where he can be a Christian Barmore, he can be a Milton Williams, he can contribute to a really dominant defensive line. And there are other really key players to that defensive line. I'm not trying to say that it's all, those 3-4 guys, but it was dominant this season. It was fantastic. And there were, like I said, statistically, there were 5 better teams as far as the rush goes, but Khyiris Tonga absolutely could play a super key role and a starter role on a team in the future. So I think his future outlook is fantastic. Even if you just take a look at team success, I mean, having experience going through the playoffs, playing Houston, playing Los Angeles, playing Denver, going all the way through it. I mean, those are some legitimate offensive lines. And those are some legitimate offenses, quarterbacks, running backs. Those are some legitimate teams that they played. Now, I think, is there a different conversation to be had about New England's offense? Sure, totally. But I don't think any of us were sitting there doubting the New England Patriots defense very much, let alone their defensive line and their rush defense. So I want him to come back. I want him to be in a position where he can really step up. So Khyiris, we love you. Hope you get a great deal with the Patriots or wherever you're going next. I hope they pay you, man. So with these scores, we're just gonna average them out to give them an overall score. Production grade 7.8, role execution 8.9, consistency 8.1, team impact 7.2, and future outlook 8.5 brings him to an overall of 8.1. I like that. I think that's that statistically feels correct as far as the grades that I feel are appropriate. This was a B season for him. This was a B, and B's aren't bad. I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask, right? But heck, a B season is fantastic for this kind of player who, was a 7th round pick, BYU at the time. I mean, we were independent. It wasn't like he was coming out of this Big 12, this program that was bringing these players out. I mean, he came out of an independent school and one that was kind of college football's best kept secret, if you ask me. And he's really made an impact over the years. So I think first 2025 season, that's absolutely what you'd want in a rotational defensive lineman, is that 8.1 right there. So anyways, thank you guys for listening. This has been the Beyond the White podcast. We're going to have podcasts weekly, so make sure to tune in. We're going to have podcasts. We're going to have interviews. We're going to have content for you all off season. So while you're sitting there missing football or watching XFL, feel free to give us a listen because you won't regret it. BYU fans, this is for you. So, all right, have a good one.